Guys, it's been a long time since I talked about a good chase movie on this channel. I think actually all the way back to Vanishing Point when I first started this channel. So today, it's time to grab your CB radios and some pink champagne because we're going to take a joyride next under reviews. So guys, I saw Joyride when it first came out in 2001. I think I'd rented it and just kind of fell in love with the movie then in my early 20s. And I wanted to revisit it because I hadn't done a chase movie in a while, and my local library actually had it, so shout out to them. So, of course, Joyride stars Paul Walker as the character of Lewis, and he's in college and he's getting ready to come back home. He's in love with this girl, but they haven't really told each other yet that they're in love with each other. Played by Lily Sobieski, and her name is Venna. So he trades in his plane ticket to buy this old 71 model car, and he makes this trip across country. And the first thing I have to talk about is I love the visuals in the first act of the movie. Of course, it's filmed in parts of California, parts of Utah and Nevada, and the daylight scenes are just beautiful. And a lot of them are filmed, right at dusk or right as the sun's going down. So I really enjoyed and appreciated those shots, thought they were beautiful. So he's calling at payphones because, yes, back then those were a thing. And, he's calling Lily's character, and I think he gets a hold of maybe his sister or his mom or somebody, and then he finds out his brother Fuller's in jail, played by Steve Zahn. And I really like Steve Zahn in about everything he's in. He's really despicable in this movie. You kind of like him, but he's not a good character. He's in jail, and so he goes and bails him out. And he's going to drop him off, I believe, in maybe Boulder, Colorado, whenever he picks this girl up. But Fuller gets him in so much trouble. He spends 40 bucks on the CB radio to put in the car. They get these handles of Mama's Boy and Black Sheep, and so they're talking to these guys, and all of a sudden they get this guy named Rusty Nail, and he's got this voice like this, and it's actually played by Ted Levine, at least the voice. I'm not sure who the actual physical actor was. It's not really important because you only see him briefly in two shots in the movie. But Ted Levine, of course, who was Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, and he was Monk's boss in the show Monk, and I really like him in Nowhere to Run with Jean-Claude Van Damme, which is one of my favorite Van Damme films. But anyway, they start messing with him. He thinks he's going to get lucky with Candy Cane, which is what Paul Walker's saying his name is over the thing, talking as a woman. And they're saying all this stuff about how they want to meet him and to bring pink champagne. And that pays off later in the movie. But that night they stop off at the Lone Star Motel. And so Fuller goes in to get him a room. And he runs into this real jerk who's body checks him on the way out after he's cussed him like a dog. And so while he's in there, Rusty Nail ends up coming back on the CB. And they've watched this guy go into room 17. So Lewis and Fuller are like, yeah, Rusty Nail, I'm here in room 17. Bring pink champagne. And so as they're watching TV that night, Rusty Nail actually shows up. And they hear this commotion going on in the next room. And the next morning they wake up and there's been a homicide. This body's been drugged down the street. It's without its lower jaw. And of course, they end up kind of having to answer to the cops for that one. And they want them out of their town at Table Rock. Long story short, Rusty Nail starts following them. They end up picking up Venna, and now they've got a girl in the car, and he's after all three of them. There's some great chase scenes. They're going down the highway. They're going through cornfields. Eventually, Rusty Nail ends up getting a hold of Venna and abducting her. And there's this really nearly explosive ending in this motel room. I love that final trap that he sets up for them. They end up coming in for her. The authorities come in, and it's just a really big climactic ending to this fun movie. So, guys, Paul Walker is pretty good in this thing as kind of the naive younger brother. We know what would happen to him later on, but not after he had a pretty big career in movies like this where he's driving. I thought it was funny that Rusty Nail's chasing them down this dirt road at one point, and I'm like, you're not going to catch him. He's the Fast and Furious guy. But Steve Zahn and his character of Fuller is so despicable in this movie. You want to like him, but at the same time, he's always bringing his brother into this crap. And at one point, he's macking on Venna, who his brother's got the hots for. And so, on one hand, you really don't like him. I think that's the point. Lily Sobieski as Venna in this, I am shocked that she didn't go on to bigger things. Of course, she looks like a young Helen Hunt, and she was really good in this, especially considering she was like 16 or 17 when they started filming this. She couldn't actually drink when they did the scenes in the bar. And of course, Ted Levine as Rusty Nail. You never actually see Ted Levine, but he is very much a character in this movie. The most you really see of Ted Levine, and I love this touch, is the CB radio when he's talking. In the beginning when they're pranking him and having fun, his voice is like yellow and green on the CB radio. But as the movie goes on and he gets madder and madder at them, light up red and go all the way across, he's shouting at them. I thought that was a really good visual. And since that character's not actually there, that actually made the character feel like he was there in the car with them. And speaking of that, I love that scene whenever he's actually written on the exit signs, look in the trunk as they're going down, and you think he's got a body because you don't know what this guy's capable of. And, they'd thrown out the CB radio thinking they didn't have to listen to him. Well, they open their trunk and that CB radio's in there. And that actually shouldn't be spooky, but it really is. And that's just because the tension is done so well in this movie that scene is a really good payoff. I like the whole build up to where he takes out the big guy at the hotel room, murders him and takes his jaw and everything. But I don't like the next morning when the cops come in. I felt like the cops they chose, acting wise, were very generic, and they're like a level below everybody else in this movie as far as acting. So I do like that scene, but the follow up scene I thought was kind of lacking. The other scene in this movie I don't really care for is they think they've given Rusty Nail the slip, and so they end up in this redneck bar, and these hicks come up, and they're hitting on Venna, and there's three of them, and Paul Walker steps in, and there's about to be a fight. Steve Zahn breaks it up. It just reminded me of juvenile high school stuff you would say to somebody's girlfriend to try to start a fight. I just didn't care for that scene. The other scene in this movie that I'm not sure about, it's pretty awkward, but it made me laugh at the same time just because of how awkward it is Rusty Nail has abducted Venna's future roommate in college, and they know he's got her, and he makes them go to this truck stop diner, and he makes them walk in naked and order 12 cheeseburgers. I don't know, something about that scene is just off, but it did make me laugh. There are some really good scenes in this movie, though, like when they're trying to get away from the ice trucker and they think he's Rusty Nail, and because he's used this thumper on his tires, and so he's chasing them down, and finally he does chase them down, and they're all up against the windows, and he's like, guys, you forgot your credit card back at the thing. That was a good scene, and I really liked the scene in the cornfield, when he's chasing him through the corn, and I love movies like Children of the Corn, and I like the movie Hallowed Ground, even though it's not very good. Anything in a cornfield like that, I really like. But that scene really builds tension, where Rusty Nail finally gets a hold of Venna and abducts her. And like I said, the finale is really explosive, and I enjoy it. And I like the fact, and I'm going to spoil the end for you if you haven't seen it here, but I like the fact that they think they've got him at the end, and then he comes over the CB, just like he was in the beginning, talking about the storm coming. And I really like that, that they could make a sequel, and I think they did. I've never seen it, and I probably won't because I just don't care. So the question at the beginning of the review was, would I like Joyride as much in 2023 as I did in 2001? And I think after watching it a couple of times, the answer is no. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I did then, but that's because I really liked it then. I do like and appreciate this movie, and I don't think it's quite a 7. I'm going to go 6.8 for Joyride. I do think it's fun. I think it's well paced. Some very good acting from these three leads here, and some really good voice acting from Ted Levine. And to me, this is almost as iconic as like his Buffalo Bill character because he does such a good job. Bring the pink champagne, candy cane. Just absolutely love that character. So yeah, I'd give Joyride a 6.8. It is a fun movie, and I think I might actually review some more chase movies like this if you guys want to see it. Maybe like the original Hitcher with Rutger Hauer. I do like it a lot. I haven't seen it in a few years. So guys, as always, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to watch this review. I really appreciate it. If you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. And as always, I'm doing, sci-fi and action. I like to sprinkle a little bit of horror and suspense like this movie here. But as always, I've been Andrew, and I'll see you down the line.